Okay, great. Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm Said, and I'm doing as a technical artist in VR Giant, and I'm also doing my PhD with Johanna Purker here at Graz University of Technology. Today, we will talk about a little bit asset creation in general. In these lectures, maybe it will be 2 or 3 lectures in total. We will talk about Blender as a 3D modeling software. Then we will export our model into the Substance Painter for texturing and also baking and other stuff related to the texturing. And at the end, we will export our model to Unreal Engine to apply to create a shader for it and apply material and also make that material interactable. Yeah, and the final result that we will get is something like this: a lantern that's, yeah, or maybe lights, a stylized style. That's, yeah. I decided to go for a stylized because I think it's first of all it's easier to implement in a short time, and also it's more fun and you can use it in many games. The other point is usually stylized art is low poly models that has either the hand painted textures or using some procedural texture, but in a non-realistic way. In order to create this model, we will start by making the simple low poly version of our model. And then we will sculpt this model using the Blender to make the high poly version of it, something like this. Using these two versions, high poly and low poly version, we will go to the Substance Painter and bake the texture, bake the maps like ambient occlusion map, cavity map, and use that maps to creating a texture for this asset, and also some other channels like emission or emissive channel that you can later on use in Unreal Engine to lighten up this environment. Also, we will create some blueprints for this object, either using directly blueprints for interaction and also C++ to make a simple overlap area that when you cross it, the light will turn on as a starting point for this asset. You can, for at the end of each lecture, I will also put the model into the Sketchfab, and if you lose that part of the lecture, you can also download the model at the end. Okay, maybe it's time that we start with Blender, talk a little bit about the general aspect, and start our modeling. Currently, I'm using Blender 2.93, but it doesn't matter that which version you will use. It should work mainly with any other versions that after 2.8. But yeah, I usually prefer to use the latest, even the beta one. Some of the settings that I have is I manually modified the keys, but you can use either the default keys or follow the key that I'm using. Also, I will activate the shortcuts in case that you would like to see the shortcuts, I will put them a little bit higher. On the bottom right corner of the screen, you will see any shortcut that I'm pressing for doing actions according to the default key binding. For example, when I would like to delete this object, I'm pressing X and then left mouse button, and you see that action that is happening. That even if I do the several clicks, you can follow it up if you want to see it in future. Okay, generally in Blender we have the 3D workspace, some other panels that is modifiable like the outliner, property panel, and any other things that we can add manually. I'm not going into this detail because I think it's not time for it, but if any of you has any question about it, just let me know and I will explain more about each parts that you need. Some of the shortcuts that we need I will explain one by one, but if I miss one of them, just let me know. As a starting point, we usually need some either concept art or some asset or some picture that we can consider as a starting point. And I decided to use this shape. I find it in one of the tutorials in YouTube from the 3DX channel, and they make this object using Maya and ZBrush, and I decided to make it here by Blender, and almost we can reach to the same result at the end. In Blender, if you want to have your objects always beside your screen, that helps you to have proportion and other stuff in a more precise way, I suggest to import the image directly inside the viewport. In order to do that, first of all, I will remove everything that I have by selecting them, either pressing A on keyboard to select all and then press X for delete, or directly press delete button on keyboard. One of the important keys that I will use quite often in this lecture is this button, Accept Grave. Yeah, you can to see the views, but you can also see it on the key binding, and you can define it for yourself to just move between different views. For example, if you I want to go to the front view or top view, I can easily use these tools. In order to add the image, I can go to the object, I can go to the add, and then add from this menu, I can add the image as a reference, or I can press Shift A, that opens the same menu, and go to the image, reference. Now I just put my artwork here, copy it, and paste it here. Now I have my image as a reference in my screen, and as I'm looking in the front view, I always have it in a 2D, and I think it's good for me. You can use either the move tool, like this, to move it a little bit higher, but usually I'm not using these tools here and pressing G for grab or move, R for rotation, and S for scale, but you can always check again the shortcuts here. I will scale it up a little bit and put it somewhere that is somehow near the base of my axis. But I would like to see it behind everything. In order to do that, I will go here and select the depths to the back. Now it's even behind the grid, and it makes my working easier because it's not always colliding with the objects. Okay, let's start by creating the simplest 3D object as a cube. The reason that we use cube here is when we look at this shape, most of this shape is made out of the cubic parts. You can easily see that this part is cube, the main part is cube, and also this part is cube, the bottom part is cube. Most of them are cubes, and it helps a lot as a starting point, as a simple model. Let me just remove this annotation. Okay, yeah. Again, if you go to the add or pressing Shift A, you can access the add menu, and here you can create your simple cube. It's my cube, and I would like to start working with it. In the new version of Blender, you have also access to this option to create a cube or other objects easier. If you like, you can try it, but I'm using the old style by creating the default cube. The other points that is very helpful is going to the wireframe mode. That helps us to see also the behind of the cube, the picture. That I think it will be very helpful in this case. The shortcut for it is Shift Z to toggle between the wireframe mode and any other modes that we are either rendering mode or the other versions are looked at. Okay, now I see that this part of my maybe concept art is smaller than the cube that I have, then I should start by scaling it. I will scale by pressing S, or I can here select this option and start scaling it. Again, I prefer to use shortcuts, and you can check it if you forget. I will scale it down. And if you would like to scale it in one specific axis, for example, the X, you just press S and then that axis, like X. And it's you can scale it in that axis. Like this. Okay, let's bring it a little bit higher to this point. And I think as a starting point, it has a good shape. I will not modify it, anything, but we will make it a little bit more wonky later on to fit. I'm also scaling it in other directions to check that the scale in both directions are the same. I will copy the X scale to the Y to be sure that the scale is the same. Okay, now I see that the middle part of it is a little bit goes inside and then extruded upward. I'm doing exactly the same thing. By pressing tab, you can go to the edit mode, or from the top menu, you can go to the modeling tab and yeah, do the same. It's easier to press tab always because then it's always faster. In edit mode, you have three options, either selecting the vertices like this, or selecting the edges like this, or selecting the face. According to the application that you would like to implement, yeah, you can select each one of them, but I usually toggle between them by pressing 1, 2, or 3. 1 is a vertex, 2 is edge, and 3 is face. Okay, as I mentioned, we would like to go a little bit inside and then extrude upward. We select the top face, go to the inset face, or pressing I on keyboard, and start to insetting a little bit inwards. Now this part is going up. I'm looking again to the front view and extrude upward, either by selecting this tool or pressing E on keyboard. You can bring it upward. But clearly, first of all, this part is much bigger than what we want according to the concept art. In this case, I press Ctrl Z to bring back and edit the things that I did before. In this case, I need to a little bit scale the top part, then again inset it and extrude it again. The top part of this shape is smaller a little bit. Yeah, like this maybe. Goes backward. Yeah, but it's too straight. We would like to make it a little bit curvature according to the again concept art. There is a tool that you can add as a loop cuts, that you cut your object and then modify it. The shortcut for it is Ctrl R. If when you press it, you can click and then move it to place your loop cuts. After you place it, you can move it according to the concept art, a little bit modify it. And now you would like to give more curvature to your shape. If it's your loop cuts and you bevel one edge, you can create several edges. In order to do the bevel, you can press Ctrl B and do the bevel. And if you scroll your mouse, you can create more edges. I see that after this, I'm not reaching to the shape that I want, but it's no problem. We can use another tool and fix it. Here, I will add another edge loop in between. And by activating the proportional editing, I can move several parts of several edges together in proportion with this one. Now, if I move it, everything inside this circle is also moving with this shape to create a little bit more wonky shape. If you do not like the shape of this movement, you can define the curvature. For example, I think the sharp one should work better for us here. Yeah, something like this should be fine. And also this part. Yeah, perfect. Now we have our shape. We will add the next detail to our shape. The next detail would be this part. I just select all of these faces, this area, you see, and then extrude them against normal. If you would like to do that, you should press the extrude button and select extrude along normals. However, I usually prefer to define some shortcuts that makes it easier. Any shortcut that you would like to use, you can right click on that tool and add that tool to the quick favorite bar. After that, when you press Q, you can access to that tool inside your quick favorite bar. And yeah, I will start by extrude face along normals. And yeah, something like this. Usually, when you use this tool, you should be careful that yeah, all of your vertices are stay in the same line. For example, if they are going a little bit higher, in this case, if I select all of them and scale them in the z direction to the 0 value, sorry, I should deactivate this tool, to the 0 value, I can fix them on the same line. Okay, perfect. I will repeat this workflow for the next part of this shape. Something like this. I bevel it to create another shape, and then again extrude against normals to create the next part. Perfect. You can see now we have easily the main shape of our object, and if we add the next point, almost we are done with this part. I will add another loop cut, select all of these faces, and then again extrude against normals. Okay, yeah. Okay, now I will select these ones, bring it a little bit higher, and I see that I have some shapes that I do not want to have. For example, here I would like to have a straight line because I will modify it later. I just select them and just move them a little bit. And now if you look at the main shape that we have there, it's usually, to make it stylized drilling, they goes a little bit inward. Something like this. We will do the same here. We select this part and just go a little bit in. We will do the same also for the other parts that we created. First, I will move it to make it the same line, and then scale it inwards. Also, we can see in this part we have the same shape. Let's scale it down. Now I have all of these additional edges that I add. I will select them by pressing Shift and select, and then again bevel them to add more detail to our objects. I think here if I use the %, I can get the better results. Yeah. However, here I have too many, and I will dissolve the edge. I think it's enough. Let's look at our shape. Okay, not so bad. Maybe it's not exactly according to our concept art, but I think it's not also bad. We can continue working with this. I will just scale this part a little bit. Maybe it gives a better feeling. Yeah. Great. Let's continue with the next part, this road here. I will add again another cube. Scale it down, move it upward, and then scale it in X direction, something like this. Yeah, we have two extruded parts, and at the end and maybe at the in front we'll have some also bevels. I will start with these extruded parts. I create one here, then bevel it with less numbers. However, I do not like to work with offset anymore. I will go for the instead of presence, go to the offset and then increase the bevel value. Okay, to something like this, and another bevel for this edge. Bevel it's like this. Okay. Now if I select, let's select separately them and extrude them. I need to select all of these edges. I will have something like this. Okay. And again, this part, extrude them to create this. We can see that this part is a little bit heavy. Let's reduce the size to get better feeling. Yeah, perfect. Sometimes you see that the colors are not very clear and it's just creating misunderstanding when you are looking at the model. It's better to activate the cavity both for word and screen together. It will add ambient occlusion, screen space ambient occlusion to your model, and yeah, it helps a lot to see your model. Let's get it from the front view and let's continue here, move it this way, and from this side I will again move it towards this part. I think it will be fine. Yeah. Okay. One of the things that can make your model a little bit more interesting is to add bevels to as much as necessarily needed. For example, I will add this. I will select this part and start beveling it. But it seems that the bevel is not working correctly, and the reason is our scale is not we did not scale our model regularly. In order to fix this, I just press Ctrl Z, go out of the edit mode, and applying the scale to make the scale to be 1. Pressing Ctrl A and selecting scale. Now the scale is 1. It will help me when I'm beveling to have more accurate and also correct proportion for the bevel. Yeah, I think it's good for this part, also for the back part. I think we can extend the back part a little bit to make it more distinguishable. Yeah. The other things is okay. Yeah, not so bad. The next point is we have one sphere on top. That's simple. Let's add it. Just add a sphere and put it on top of your object. We will modify it in a sculpting mode and give it better shape later on, but just for now, I think it's enough to be there. The next thing that maybe looks interesting in this shape is the main lantern part or the light part. Again, this part looks like made out of the cube. I will try to replicate this structure by creating one cube, scale it down, and put it somewhere like this. Scale it again, extraction. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's good. Okay. I think the size should be fine. If we find out it's not good, we can always modify it later. Okay, we have this shape and we would like to reach to the higher elevation of it. Absolutely, we can select each edge. So for now, I just move it a little bit up to this point, then extrude it and scale at the same time to go a little bit outward. Again, extrude, scale, extrude, and now we would like to reach to that point. In that case, we extrude again and then scale, but it has some curvature, if you see, that we can add always later using that bevel technique that we discussed before. Again, scale, extrude, scale, scale, yeah, and extrude only a little bit, scale, extrude, extrude, and then extrude and scale, and that's it. Okay, it seems to be so big. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think this shape is better for it. That one is so big. Again, extrude, scale. I would like to create the same proportion somehow. Extrude, scale. That's it. Okay, that's good. On top of it, we have somehow a torus shape that is cutted, but I think it's too low. I will bring it upward. In order to add the torus and also make it exactly, I would like to create it exactly at this point. First, I will select these vertices. By pressing Shift S, I can define the position of the 3D cursor, and I will select cursor to select it. And if I now create a torus, it will create at this point. However, this one is too much detailed for our purpose. I will just maybe use 24. I think it's enough. Scale it, rotate it 90, rotate it 90 degree, and put it upward. The scale, and then go to edit mode, select these vertices, removing the vertices, again select these vertices and extrude them upward. If I duplicate this object, rotate in the Z direction 90 degree, and then rotate in X direction 180 degree, I can create the next part of it. And you see, we can easily create that lantern. Okay, then the other part that we need is another sphere for this part. I think. Yeah, not so bad. Okay, we are almost done. The only things that remains is this hand for to keep it stand, and yeah, I will add it like this. Again, another cube. Rotate it. If you look at our shape, it should connect this part of our shape to the main road, and I will move it this way. Again, a little bit smaller. Selecting this edge. And moving it towards the local z-axis of the object. If you press double time the axis when you want to move, you can scale or move in that direction. For example, if I press G and press Z, I can move towards the 0 direction, but if I press Z again, I can move towards the local Z direction. And it will be very helpful when you are working in some cases like this. I will move it like this and then rotate it somehow, or not. Maybe it's better to do it like this. Let's try this part. Yeah. However, the thickness is too much. I think we can work also with less thickness. Yeah. I think this one will be fine for us. Again, in the Z direction, I move this way. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think this part should be goes a little bit higher into the object to give the better feeling that this part is supporting the main road. Just you should always know that if you're working in the viewport shading or any rendering mode, if you select something, the vertex or the face behind it is not selecting. In order to be able to select, either you should activate the X-ray mode or go to the wireframe mode to easily select the vertex behind it. Okay, now we have our main shape, and we can go for some small tweaks to make it prepared for the sculpting. The first part I would like to tweak is the main lantern. I would like to make it goes a little bit inward. I just scale it downward like this. And then instead of insetting all together, I just select inset individual and then reduce the inset value. And I see that the inset is not working correctly, and the reason is, again, the scale is not 1. I just press Ctrl A and scale it to 1, and if I inset it again, I can inset it in the correct proportion. I will move it down or inward like this, and then if I press Q, extrude again, extrude faces along normals. I can extrude them like this. Okay. The other thing I would like to do is adding another loop cut here, scale it down, and then bevel it. Give a little bit curvature feeling. Not so bad. Also, I like to make this part a little bit extrude upward, like this. What else can we do? For example, if I add one edge here and scale it here, proportional scaling. Even more. Then I bevel it. I can give a little bit funkier look to it. And I think this sphere is too big. It should be smaller. Now I decided to make it also smaller, goes higher, but a little bit bigger. Yeah, I think now it's good. Usually you have two options, either shading as a flat or shading smooth. The smooth will interpolate between the values of the normals of the vertices and create average value that cause some smooth feeling to objects. However, if you have some sharp edges, it will create some artifacts. In order to avoid this, you need to go to the object data properties and then select auto smooth. It will automatically consider the edges that is less than specific values. For example, here is 30 degree, and it smooths them and only smooths them, and the rest will keep sharp. I will do the same for the rest. For example, I will merge these two objects together by pressing Ctrl J and then auto smooth and right click shade smooth. And you see sometimes the value is too low for this object and create some artifacts. You need to just increase it to reach the value that you need. Okay. Yeah, a question. How would you add the curvature at the top of the lamp? Where do you mean exactly? You mean this curvature that I added or somewhere else? Oh, yeah, great. Sorry, so it's a little bit late, but yeah. Please let me know if you have any question in midway. Sometimes I forget to see the chat, but I try to see it more often. Okay. Yeah, honestly, I'm not so happy with the thickness of this object. I will also try to scale it down, but not in z-axis. It's a little bit downward. And then this, it's too big. Yeah, like this. Usually when you create a game-ready asset, you should remove the unnecessary edges later on, but I will do it later. It's not necessary for now. Okay, the other things that I would like to add is also shade smooth for this auto smooth. I usually prefer to have bevel for the edges in general, even very small bevel, something like this value. If you go to the modifiers, you apply the bevel, you can have the bevel accordingly. And always apply the scale to 1, otherwise the value is not under your control. And after you apply the bevel, there is one modifier called weighted normals. It will smooth the edges, it will somehow interpolate between the values of normals again, but keep the rest of the shape smooth and sharp. It's very good for the metal material, but also in our stylized shape, I think it will work. Okay, I applied this modifier. If you like to see only the difference between the previous and now, you can see maybe it's not that much, but in game when you zoom in, you can see that now it's much more smoother. If I turn off the cavity, the difference is maybe more visible, that it's smoother. Okay. Now I have the modifier applied to this object, but I would like to copy it for example, this object again. I will first select this and shift select the other one, pressing Ctrl L to linking the data and link copy modifiers. And now this object has the same modifier, but it says the auto smooth is not active, and we should activate to apply it. Also for this shape, I will do the same, Ctrl L, copy modifiers. But it seems that the value for this one is too much. I will reduce it to maybe 2. Yeah, now it's much better, cleaner. The only things that remains is this one. I think it should be thicker, otherwise yeah, it doesn't feel that it can stick there. Yeah. Usually, I'm not using the subdivision in such a these models. I just make a loop cut. It's more under my control to create loop cuts and then just bevel the loop cuts. Otherwise, yeah, subdivision modifier is awesome, but you should be aware that where you are using it and is it necessary or not, because it creates lots of unnecessary geometry. Okay, and I will also apply this to this object and scale and Autismos. Perfect. I think the initial stage of our model is ready. We can start sculpting, but in the meanwhile, if you have any question, you will read the chat for a moment, and then we will go for the sculpting. The tablet that I'm using for the sculpting is XP Pen. It's not that much expensive, but I think it's working quite well. XP Pen Deco Pro. Okay, then let's go continue with the sculpting. I think I do not need the this shape anymore. I know what I would like to do with the shape. I will just hide it. Or the other solution is just select your select part of your model, pressing M, and create a new collection. I will call it, for example, references, and then deactivate that collection. It's easier because I can add several things to that collection later if I need it, and deactivate them whenever I do not need it. Okay, I will start by sculpting this part. Before that, a little bit again scaling it. In order to sculpt, you can go to the sculpt mode or pressing Ctrl Tab and go to the sculpt mode, but I prefer to go here and see my model. In the sculpt mode, you have several tools that is increasingly rapidly in Blender. There are some guys in Blender Foundation that is working so much and yeah, improving Blender sculpting features. And nowadays there are, maybe if you compare it even with 2.8 version, it has lots of more features like close sculpting and also deformation and boundary movement, and also this pose mode that is very useful. But here we will use very simple sculpting technique, and we are not going into the detail. The first point is I need another copy of my model to make a sculpted version out of it. I select everything, pressing Shift D to duplicate, and creating another collection, call it HP or High Poly. I deactivate that one, selecting this one and LP for the low poly. I have also some other collections that I do not need. I remove them, deactivate the low poly, go to the high poly. And here I will start by, in the sculpting mode, I will start by adding additional geometry, because as you see, the number of vertices or number of polygons that we have is very low, and it's not possible to create our shape. Yeah, absolutely. With sculpting, we will increase drastically the number of polygons, but we are not using this model anywhere. That's the point is we will go to the Substance Painter later and bake that sculpted version into the low poly version, and the result is usually interestingly amazing. The other point about the saving, yeah, good point. Hopefully the Blender has a quick save feature that is working quite well, but you're right, I should do the save things before I lose it stylized. And now I would like to exactly increase the number of polygons a lot. Okay, but before that, I go to the object mode, apply the scale, go to the sculpt mode. There is a dynamic topology, a part that creates additional topology for your model. For example, I would like to have some additional detail here. In order to find out how much detail I need, I can start to a little bit sculpt to find out whether the detail is enough for the quality that I want or not. For this type of sculpting, I would like to separate them, because later on you can also go in Substance Painter and bake according to the name of the object. And in that case, if you have separated objects, you can also bake better, because I will not make any smoothness between two parts of the objects. All parts will be separated. Otherwise, if you are sculpting, for example, a human body or something that has the smooth connection, you can join your objects. And also there is a remesh tool that recently added in 2.83, I think, that you can also join your objects using the voxel remesh or another method. Okay, here I increase the quality by reducing the detail size to something that's somehow satisfying. It's not good. Yeah, I will reduce it a little bit more. However, it's too much now. Let's go for 2. I think this detail is enough. I will add it, and then from this part I can select the detailing method, and I will put it to the constant detail. and I will use a eyedrop to pick the detail, and it calls 151, something like this. I will press Ctrl Z to remove that part and select detail fulfill. It should be better. Okay. Okay, again I will start with the scrap tool and reduce the size of the brush and start scrapping, something like this. And automatically, according to the mistakes of your hand, you will create some interesting detail into your model that it will be very cool at the end. Maybe it's not beautiful now, but no worries. It will be very nice when you finish with your model, and you can also increase on some points that shows this wood has some defects. Usually I will activate the cavity and both again to see it better. It's for wooden parts. Zoom in. Oh, yeah, good point. It's just, I should have started again. Thank you for mentioning. Sculpting these parts. This. That. Okay. Yeah, I think for the wooden part of this object, as a starting point, it's enough. Now we know that these parts will be the metal. We will do the same workflow, but first of all, not with that much uh, movement, only straight lines. And then, yeah, I've increased the brush size to make it a little bit faster. And now, yeah, it's metal, and if you would like to give it some not modern and also stylized feeling, you can use this inflate tool, and just by pressing a little bit some part of it. Always by pressing shift you can smooth the parts that you created. You can go out and then go in to create some feeling that it's not flat surface anymore. And always trust the mistake of your hand. It automatically creates some interesting detail that's maybe even you do not plan for it, but it's good to have it. Okay, yeah. I think we can repeat the same workflow for the other parts. Creating some parts goes out, goes in, and then a smooth. Goes out, goes in, smooth. Just doing it a little bit quicker. Yep, reducing this brush size. Some of this detail maybe you will remove them after you bake them on the low poly version, but you will see after you do that workflow that if some parts of it is not according to your interest, you can always change it easily. In the sculpt mode, by pressing shift, as I told you, you can smooth the parts that you already sculpted, and by pressing Ctrl, you can reverse wise the workflow that you have. For example, now we are in positive way, it means everything that I'm drawing is going outward, and when I press Ctrl, everything will goes inward. And in this case, you can differentiate. Uh, Absolutely, when you use something like ZBrush, you have lots of more brushes that can faster and easier create such this effect. Or even if you use some alpha brushes that predefine some of these shapes, it makes your workflow faster. But here I'm trying to use everything that is already included in Blender. Okay, I use again the scrap tool, reducing the size of it, making these parts like this. Almost ran out of time, but yeah, I try to push to some shape at least for now. By pressing the slash button, you can focus on the object that you are working, and yeah, it will be also very helpful in this case. And also the other reason that I'm using the separated object is to be able to focus on the parts that I would like to work more precisely. If you find out that somewhere is not good, you can smooth them, gain the rest of the shape. Uh, There in Blender you have also symmetry option that you can use to do not repeat your work, but because this shape is not symmetric, we already remove the symmetry or destroy the symmetry from this shape. We cannot use it that much, and also it's not bad. Usually sculpting is enjoyable, but yeah, I really like it. And if you see, you see all of the polygons. It's not important. We can smooth them afterward, and only the significant detail will remains. No, no. Okay, this part. It's good to know that almost there is no object in the world that is totally sharp, even the knife, when you go to the microscopic scale. And if when you consider these facts, if you have any sharp edges in games, it always looks a little bit odd, even if you have anti-aliasing with a very high quality, because the sharp edges look like that there is no thickness, and we do not have anything without thickness in the world. In this case, if you even like to create something that looks scientific or sci-fi or even totally hard surface, make the edges smooth but with very small bevel. However, here we are creating a metal that is yeah somehow totally destroyed, and it's not, it doesn't have any smooth edge. And here we have these shapes that I do not like. I just pressing shift and smoothing that part. If you find out that some parts of your shape is not according to your expectation, just press shift and smooth them out. Okay, great. It's the initial stage of our model with metal and the wood. In the model that you saw there, I also added some details like this, and I will increase the strength a little bit. Let's try it's too big. Yeah, now I decide I will add some details like this. However, it's the size of this tool. There is a tool called crease, and you can create some shapes inside your wood. This. Yeah, the model will be continued. We will finish the model and then yeah do the exporting stuff and also the baking stuff in the next lecture. Uh, yeah, but I will let you know about the next one. And about the hair system in Blender and moving it in Unreal. Unreal has his own hair system that recently improved a lot, and the quality is very good. And usually it's in such a this case that you have the replicated objects like here that you have several thousands of them. The performance is very important, and you cannot use the normal mesh for it or normal system to yeah rendering them. It's better to use the default system in Unreal, and I'm sure that the final quality and also the performance is better than using the Blender exported version. Okay, yeah, I think it will be fun for now, this object. However, I feel I need a little bit more detail on these parts, but for now we will keep it like this. Thank you for joining this stream. If there is any question, just feel free to ask. Otherwise, we will continue with the model in the next lecture. See you next time. Bye everyone.